Hello, I'm Toycat and I'm at the Red Rock Canyon, or perhaps rather in the Red Rock Canyon. Either way, while I was on the way in, I spotted something quite interesting because there was a couple of ladies speaking French to each other, and it made me realize, like, wow, these are two women clearly from France who are so lucky, I mean, to be here, like to be outside of France, somewhere, you know, where it doesn't smell bad. They must be having such a good time. And more seriously, it got me thinking about this whole sunk cost fallacy that we often find ourselves in, right? Because while I'm here, I've been walking for about half an hour. I coughed quite a bit and I was like, oh yeah, still apparently my lungs aren't great at doing this. And but I was at the point where I was like, well, I already came all the way out here, so I've got to keep on going, right? And that is an example of a sunk cost fallacy. Like, if it's terrible and if you're feeling like you can barely breathe, maybe you shouldn't be doing the thing that you're doing. But in the same way, I've been thinking a lot about my apartment here in Las Vegas. It is about to run out as you watch this video. The lease has either just ended or it's just about to. And I don't know, this is one of my favorite places I've ever lived here in Vegas. The apartment in particular is really cool too. I can't wait to show you at some point, I think on the second channel. But I really like the apartment itself, but I also really like the place. I'm like kind of sad, like, man, when this place runs up, I'm probably never going to live here again. And there's some real sadness about that makes me go, why don't I just renew it? I mean, you know, the whole point of I got the apartment, I rented a place here under the assumption that I'd start living in it. But just because that didn't happen, it doesn't mean, you know, just because I didn't start living in there, it doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it, and I enjoyed it a lot. So I don't know, just continue renting it. And I was kind of trapped in this, like, well, I already am in the place, so, you know, like the current thing bias, I'm just already here, so why don't I just keep paying more to keep it? But it's something which is a bad set of logic. Just, I already have this thing, why don't I keep paying so that I can keep keeping it? Is usually one of the worst things you can do. Whenever you've got an opportunity to make a choice, you should ideally consider as many options as you can. Consider all of your options, not just the one that's the easiest. I mean, it would be easier if I was looking for a Vegas apartment to keep the one that I'm in as opposed to moving to a brand new place. But what if I like this place the most of anywhere I've stayed in Vegas, but I like the next place I'd find more? What if staying in Vegas isn't even a good idea for me? What if I've decided that, you know, if I am just gonna be visiting places, just rent, you know, like just stay at a fancy hotel for 3 weeks at a time, and it probably costs the same as like 2 months of rent if I'm only gonna stay in it for 3 weeks every 2 months, or whatever the ratio is, right? You know, the idea is, or, you know, like, get a fancy Airbnb. There's all sorts of different options that are available, and ultimately keeping this place is kind of dumb. And I really, it finally hit me last night because I was woken up by some, I live on a really quiet road. Again, without doxing it too much, I'm fairly close to everything, but I'm like on a quiet road off all of that stuff. But that was super loud, like, you know, like, I don't need to explain loud cars to you, like someone revving their engine a little bit, like going crazy fast. It's something that is really, really, you know, and I guess it was a bit obnoxious, and it, you know, the fact that it woke me up despite being, like, you know, sealed into an apartment made me realize, like, oh yeah, this place isn't great. I mean, if it was great, then I wouldn't have issues with noise. I wouldn't have issues with motorbikes or with cars being super loud. And so as a result, I was like, yeah, this place has issues. You know, it's nice. I love everything about it. I love living in Vegas because it's like resort style. Like, you have a pool, you have a gym, you have a clubhouse, you have, you know, it's like super central to everything. I can walk to fancy places, to fun places for dinner, for cheap places for dinner, to fancy places for dinner. I can walk like basically anywhere I want, but also I'm within a 20-minute drive of a beautiful canyon. I love living here, but at the same time, as much as you might love something, you know, like, you know, at some point I'm not really thinking about the cost. Like, yeah, it is very expensive to just have a whole second, like a place on the other side of the world if I'm not intending to live here, right? So that's a dumb reason. It is kind of loud, like, it's a bit too central, like, it's slightly not too central that I don't walk every day to the strip or whatever, but it's also central enough that people who clearly come here as tourists see a big wide empty road and, you know, 25 limit, but assume, oh yeah, no one lives here, and then they wake me up with their noises, and there's nothing I can do about that because I have a you know, my apartment is next to the street. And so yeah, the truth is that, like, there are all sorts of downsides that I'm just not considering because I've got my rose tinted or black tinted glasses on that are, you know, hiding the truth from me. It is really bright here all the time. Like, you have to wear sunglasses everywhere in Nevada, which to me is like, it's a good thing that I'm wearing sunglasses because I feel like I should wear them anyway. I've got real bad light sensitivity problems, and like, it encourages me to do a good thing. But isn't it not, whenever I'm back in the UK, I don't really appreciate, like, oh, it's nice can just walk outside without going blind. I can't look at like white objects for too long without it happening, but like it's nice, right? It's real nice. And anyway, speaking of things that are real nice, I want to talk a little bit about this idea of like the current you know, the bias that you have. You know, it's like a little bit of survivorship bias, but it's real, the sunk cost fallacy of like, well, you already have a thing, so it must be great. And I think the best example that we all have in our day-to-day lives is like your phone or an internet or your gas or electricity provider, like or car insurance is another one. It's always cheaper to switch. Always. There's always a better deal for you. But just, it also is a lot of like faff, right? It's a lot of like, yeah, I've got to go find someone, I've got to sign up for their policy, I've got to hope they're as good as my current. I've never had issues with my current provider. Maybe I do with my new one. I buy home insurance every year. I think I forgot to do it. Oh no, I have to renew my home insurance in May. I pick a new home insurance provider every single year, and it is like filling in a form every single year, and I'm actually switching coverage, right? Like they're all providing different amounts of things and different coverage. I think I'm with like Urban Gorilla right now. You know, they're like a cool upstart home insurance company, but how can you be a cool upstart home insurance company? What are they actually doing? Are they just hoping that they can be really cool, then eventually people will have the, you know, the locked in bias of them, the sunk cost fallacy? They already know Urban Gorilla. I don't know. Does anyone ever use their home insurance? Like it costs £100 a year and it's insuring me for like 2 million. So it's got to be like at most 1 in 20,000 people would be using it, right? 1 in 200, yeah, 1 in 20,000 people every year are making some claim on that policy at most. They're not, right? Anyway, insurance logic aside, you can roughly, you know, like you can look at insurance that way if you really want to, like, well, take out the cost of, on average, if you're doing something once every 200 years, I'll need to claim on it, so I might as well pay the £100 a year. Whatever, anyway, people get locked into these deals. For a few years in my old house, I was with a company called like More Than or LV, I don't even know, one of the bland home insurance companies, and they raise it by 20% every year. But I was like, well, you know, 100 to 120 just for the benefit of not, that feels fine. 120 to 144 just for the benefit of not dealing with it, that's fine. And that's like 144 to 168, and at some point you're like, yeah, these 20% additions are huge. They're making a real dent in my ability to, you know, they're making a real dent in the finances. Like you lose the 20 the first year, the 44 the second year, and every year you don't do something, it gets worse. But it also doesn't feel too bad. Like, yeah, I paid 144 last year, I can do 168 this year. I did 168 this year, I can do 180 next, and so on and so forth. Same with phones. Okay, if you are below the age of like 30, I hope someone out there can also sympathize me on this one. Whenever I speak to someone who's older and I learn about how much they're paying for their phone, I'm like, but why? They're like, oh yeah, but I get all the everything unlimited, it just cost me $80 a month. I've heard that one a lot, and admittedly America is like more expensive in general, but I'm like, and that's just the SIM? You're not getting a phone in that? You just pay $80? And it's like, yeah, but you know, like it's everything. And it's like, but you can get you know, my ex-girlfriend had everything, like unlimited. I think it was $30, maybe 25, maybe 20. It was in the low 20s range. It's like, oh yeah, you pay $50 because that's the plan you had when you were getting a new phone, or that's the plan, or like, you know, it's just the one that you've had forever, and they slowly raise it every single year. Fun fact, in the UK, we get like inflation rises every year on our phone bill, plus 3% or something like that. And it's like, but inflation is calculated using the phone bill. So you know, it's really silly that people like stick with their plans, is what I'm saying here. It's really silly that people stick with these things, but there's just this bias towards like, yeah, I already have it, so I'll keep it that way. And it kind of means there's like a real incentive in basically every industry. There's very few places where you get like a loyalty bonus. Instead, it is a loyalty penalty. In most of in so many services that you pay for on a monthly basis, you get this like, yeah, a disloyalty bonus maybe. Like if you switch, you get some real bonuses. I opened a new bank account recently. They offered some really fun deal if you'd never been a customer before. I apparently signed up on the last day of the deal and they refused to honor it or something. But their only requirement is you have to switch an existing account. In the UK, to encourage competition between banks, you can legally switch from any bank you want to any other bank. It's really fun. Like you can just move all your direct debits around. You keep your debit card even. You keep your or maybe you keep the debit card number, but you keep your everything in there works the same. It's just now you have a different bank. It's something every large bank is like obliged to sign up to. And so when you use that service, you get a huge bonus. And I told my bank guy about it, and he's like, oh, actually, you know, we do one of those bonuses too. So if you want, you could just immediately switch it back and then make another bonus. And I was like, heck yeah. And again, I'm having some real issues with that account and how they're not like the other one I've switched out to. But I'll be able, even if they don't give me the bonus, I can get paid to switch it back to my current bank. And it's like, that's fun, huh? That's real fun. Apparently you can only do that once every like few years or something, but it's just £200 they're giving me for being a new customer, which you obviously don't get if you're a existing one. And so that's a great example of the sunk cost fallacy. If you stay with Barclays or, you know, Halifax or whoever, if you stay with your bank, you're just giving up on money that you could have. You're giving up on the disloyalty bonuses. I mean, it's widely known at this point. That's how the job market works now, right? It's like, yeah, if you stay with your current employer, they underpay you because they know that you know the job and there's like a familiarity bonus. Whereas if you switch job, that's how you make the real gains. A pro tip for anyone who needs financial advice. Everyone I speak to in any industry says basically that. My trousers are falling down because I'm walking downhill too fast. So I'm pulling out some water. If you're curious why I'm standing still, you should never stand still, always be moving. That's my bad advice for a car. For road safety maybe. Anyway, but there's a really interesting thing about this like disloyalty benefit that really is like, yeah, so many industries have that built in. But even if they don't, even if there was no such thing as, yeah, you get penalized for being loyal and you get non-penalized for not being loyal, there would be, even in that case, you have changed, your scenario has changed, the cost benefit of your existence is slightly different than it was before. Like, you know, I don't know, like a year ago to now, just your job, you might think, well, I like my job and I don't really need the money. But even just on the ignoring that sort of level, even if you think about it like that, there's still, like, you might have changed what you want in a job in the last year. Maybe you value stability more, then you should go switch to something government job, right? Maybe you value, maybe you're in something government job and you value, you know, like something that you get not in those jobs. Like you should be considering a switch at all times, because you're always changing. If you're not always changing, you're basically dead. Sorry to tell you, but you are always changing. And so you should always be looking at your options and saying, why is this like this? Maybe like doing that every day is exhausting, but once a month just having like a review of like, why am I doing the things that I'm doing? Are they the right things to be doing? Really important. I get this on YouTube because I've got the world's least stable job. At time of recording, I genuinely think there's a chance that months of my income might not appear. Might have just been stolen by some tech startup and used to pay off their other debts. Basically they're operating like a Ponzi scheme, which is scary. It looks like that, at least. They've got more debt than they've got assets, and one of their assets is me, and so that's fucking great. But you know, I live in one of the most unstable jobs. I get paid months behind, once a month, and even then sometimes not, you know, and it's also hugely variable. So I have to really look at this and say like, okay, well, I'm doing the same thing but it's getting worse. What do I need to do differently? I haven't changed things, but things have changed. What do I need to do to keep up? And so I'm constantly having to ask myself these questions. I'm constantly having to like redo things. And then sometimes it's like, but I don't want to. I just want to do the easy thing that allows me to go out in the evening and enjoy, I don't know, fancy noodles and cereal milk flavored ice cream. Sometimes that's all I want. By the way, yesterday went to a noodle place, but they only had one noodle dish. It's a place known for their noodles, a celebrity noodle place. They had one noodle dish and 3 ramens. And it's like, but, and the noodle dish had ginger in it. But it was so good anyway. I had like one of the best dining experiences I've had in a while. Just want to tell you about a little flex on you. Yeah, I can go to a celebrity chef. Yeah, that's a whole It's a whole like $80 meal right there. Show you who's boss. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I like eating food. I had the weirdest thing actually. A chef came up to me during the meal and was like, you know, I like the way you're doing this, just ordering lots of small dishes. Was a weird thing. But yeah, like that's an example of like reevaluating. Like I went all the way there. I walked half an hour to a place to eat some fancy noodles. Then I know I hate noodles. I've tried ginger so many times, I just despise it. It ruins the flavor of everything else around it too. So I did the thing that's hard and said, yeah, I came here for noodles, but I'm not gonna eat them. You come all the way somewhere and you realize you don't want the thing, you don't have to do the thing. Sometimes it's good to force yourself through that if you know you're just like anxietying your way out of doing a thing. But you should, or you know, like excusing yourself out. There'll always be excuses. But ultimately there is a point at which there's this point at which you get to say like, okay, this is on me. I gotta redecide. Making decisions on the spot is hard. Changing decisions is harder, but you gotta do it anyway. Sometimes you have to look at where you live and say, is this the right place for me? Or is this just where I happen to grow up? You gotta look at your job and question the same. You gotta look at your relationship. You gotta look at, you know, if you were born somewhere terrible, you know, you don't have to live there. It's your choice. If you want to be close to your family and you value that so much, that's great. But you might be better off somewhere else. Just like if you were born in France, but you'd be much happier in Vegas, even if for a few short weeks of your life, being somewhere that wasn't there, you know, wasn't objectively awful, then that's something you should totally do. Anyway, I think I've run out of ground to hike at this point. But yeah, the sunk cost fallacy is something I have to think about a lot because of my particular profession, but also my personal life. That's why I'm changing career, or like changing my whole life situation is changing. I'm changing where I live. I have an aborted marriage. I'm changing my whole life plans, but I'm happier this way. And I hope that you're happier, unless you're French, in which case, you know, be how you want to be. I just know it won't be happy. Anyway, I'm just kidding. I like to rip on the French. If you are French, I appreciate you. Hope you're having a good day. I mean, I really hope you're having a good day. You need it. I mean, you're living in France. Anyway, yeah. Wait. There's a mountain with some snow up there. It's like 35 degrees, but it's still snowy, and that's beautiful. Anyway, speaking of beautiful, appreciate you. Have a good day. Bye, beautiful. If I just talk to you meanly, you know, goodbye, sluts. You're terrible. You're never going to amount to anything. Keep watching Toy Cat videos though. Okay, bye. Oh, it's so hot in a car. If you want to help me out in exchange for this video, tell me how cars get so hot, and if there's a way to like stop that. Like, could I leave one of my windows slightly open, or would thieves get in my car if I did that? How does it work? All I know is I'm boiling alive right now. And I'll see you next time. Goodbye.